Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today in this new AFSIA webinar. Today we will be talking about solar applications, especially for the agriculture on the African continent. And we've got some amazing speakers with us today who will be sharing about their projects and their experiences and the solutions they are bringing to different aspects of the agricultural activity on the continent. I will tell you more, but all our speakers in a few minutes. Before we get started with the different presentations, we've had a very large number of registrations today of new listeners. So I wanted to tell you a bit more about AFSIA for those of you who might not be familiar with the association yet. So AFSIA is the Africa Solar Industry Association. We are the go-to platform for everything solar in Africa. Our goal is really to promote the use of all solar solutions across Africa. We are an information platform, knowledge sharing platform, but also our goal is to assist our members to increase their reach and generate more business. We are broadcasting now from wonderful Kigali in Rwanda, which is where we are headquartered. But we also have local representatives in some key markets across the continent, including Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Madagascar. And this being said, well, we organized back in the days when it was still possible to organize live events. We were organizing events in different cities. Hopefully, we will soon be able to do so again. But for now, we of course stick to the webinars, which is something that I'm sure many of you are getting very used to by now. In terms of what we cover at AFSIA, it's really like the full solar industry. So this ranges from the large-scale grid-connected to solar home system, pico solar cook stoves, and going through mini grids, CNI applications, residential application, but also through different verticals. We assist project developers, we put them in touch with investors. We also have legal advisors, technical advisors. Really the entire gamut of activities that you can think of in the solar industry is home at AFSIA. And in terms of activities we organize, well, today we organize an online event with a webinar, but we also produce regular newsletters. We regularly write some reports. We have a very cool report coming up on bifacial modules and the latest developments on that front. And of course, we organize business support and lead generation services for our members, helping them to reach more customers and achieve more sales. This is a snapshot of our current members. For those of you who were joining at our last webinar about a month ago, you will have noticed that there is significantly more logos on this page. We're very, very happy, and there is a great enthusiasm for joining AFSIA, and we hope that you will also find it useful to consider joining us and to join the team. In terms of activities, very quickly, well, you've seen back in April, we organized our first webinar, which was about the COVID implications for African solar. You will get the presentation after today's webinar, and you will be able to click on this link if you wish to watch this video. We also launched a very nice project, the African Solar Projects Database. So far, we have identified close to 5,000 projects, solar projects in Africa, and all the projects that are in operations currently and for which we managed to collect enough information are freely accessible through the website with a very cool database system, so you can really filter down all the projects that you are interested in. We also had last month a very interesting webinar about solar for airports. Today we are talking about agriculture and solar in the agricultural world. and you see a whole bunch of other events coming up. Maybe I would like to highlight one in particular, which is the AFSIA Solar Awards. We want to promote all the people, all the entrepreneurs, all the professionals who've been doing something great in the solar industry space in Africa over the past 12 to 18 months. And I warmly invite you to submit your applications. There are 15 different categories. We have a stellar jury to evaluate the applications. It's done in a completely transparent and independent way. And the winners will be announced during the Africa Energy Forum with an amazing setup. I cannot share more details right now with you, but in the coming weeks, you'll hear a lot more about this, and it's really going to be amazing. So please take a few minutes to submit your projects and your activities. It's definitely worth it. But enough for self-promotion. Today you're here to listen and learn about what's the latest news, what are the latest applications and business models and solutions that entrepreneurs are providing professionals of the agricultural world in Africa. And we have some amazing speakers today. The first one to share a bit of knowledge with us is Paul Nyandika from Heifer International. Paul is the impact investment manager for Heifer, and he brings more than 10 years experience in the investment and finance industry with a special focus on SMEs. He's been with Heifer for a bit more than 2 years now, and previously worked in different banks in Kenya and also Village Capital in DC. And in terms of education, well, Paul holds a PhD in economics from the University of Nairobi. So without further ado, I would like to thank and welcome Paul for sharing some of his experience with us from his work at Heifer, and tell us a bit more about what Heifer can contribute on this particular topic today. Paul, the floor is yours, and you may unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John, and the AFSA community for organizing this event. Paul Nyandika is my name. I'm the Impact Investment Area Manager for Africa at Heifer, where I work closely with our teams across Africa to support access to finance to the farmers that we're working with a view of accelerating their path to living income. And a brief about Heifer International. We can just move to the next slide so that I just introduced now Heifer. Next slide. Thank you. That is a quick mission statement. The previous slide, sorry. Great, thank you. So that is a quick one-liner about what Heifer does. So Heifer is an international non-governmental organization that is on a mission to end poverty while caring for the earth. We've been around for 75 years, that is since 1944, providing livestock and environmentally sound agricultural training to improve the lives of those who struggle daily for reliable food and income. We currently work in 21 countries globally, including the US, to help families and community become self-reliant. Our primary goal definitely is to help family achieve what we call a living income. A living income is an income which will allow them to feed the families daily, educate the children, have proper housing, water, hygiene, and other essential resources. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to do this, or to achieve our main mission, we employ what internally we call as an accelerator strategy, which combines value-based holistic community development and market development. So the blue circle is what we call value-based holistic community development, and is basically made up of two major components. The first one is community mobilization, and the second one is training. So under the value-based holistic community development, we mobilize communities mostly into cooperatives and then provide social capital training to them anchored on 12 principles, which at Heifer we fondly call them the 12 cornerstones. So our approach under the value-based holistic community development is to encourage people to use their collective strengths and values when faced with impossible solutions. To create a lasting economic kind of impact for farmers, we merge the value-based holistic community development, which basically is the training of these farmer groups together with an inclusive market development. So on the right, the orange side, you have the market development. And under market development, we approach it from, I'd say, 4 angles. So the first one is we try as much as possible to identify the best value chains that could spur or propel our farmers into living income. So at this point, I'll say that there is no single value chain that is a silver bullet to prosperity. Rather, at Heifer, we always strive to identify and work on the value chains that we believe that have a bigger impact and ability to scale to our farmers. Secondly, is that we support agribusinesses and the cooperatives so that they can engage with the market and become profitable. Part of the ways in which we engage and support the cooperatives and the agribusinesses is probably initiating collaborations, e.g. relationships with our input suppliers for the cooperatives, as well as the off-takers of the produce of the farmers. The next 2 angles within which we link our farmers to the market is through deployment of capital and technology, as well as mobilizing value-based private sector partnership. I will focus on the last 2, that is a deployment of capital and technology, as well as mobilizing value-based partnership to be able to show us how we deploy solar into agriculture. So next slide, please. Thank you. So when you look at the last 2 items, that was investment and technology, as well as partnership. I've split them into 3. So with regards to technology, we try as much as possible to identify contemporary technologies that would enable the farmers to increase their production and productivity. And secondly, because we know that that technology requires funding, we provide impact investment from Heifer, as well as noting have to work with partners, and we are constantly looking for partners that we have common goals and ability to scale beyond what Heifer can do. So I'll delve into these 3 items, these 3 kind of buckets, so that I can be able to show how we are deploying technology. Thank you, John. You can just move to the next slide.
Sorry, thanks.
Great. So the first one is a bucket on technology and innovation. And I will circle on to the use of solar. Of course, there are many other technologies in agriculture, but for this purpose, I'll circle on solar. So zeroing into solar, one of the core use of solar that we adopt is the productive use of solar. So we've found that in agriculture, solar has alignment with our mission, and our mission definitely entails caring for the earth. So we apply solar in our intervention, not as an end in itself, but as an enabler to spur other income generating activities for the communities. This is basically what we see as the productive use of solar. The goal is to create productive community centers out of solar. For example, we would use solar chilling tanks, and the excess capacity from solar energy would be used to power other light usages like cold storage in the neighboring areas, or agrovets, or even health centers, or even power light cottage industries and internet cyber cafes. At this point, I'd say that it's not that we do not adapt solar for single use, that is solar for irrigation, solar for chilling only, or solar for lighting, etc. We do that as well. What I'm showing from this projection is a holistic picture based on our intervention at the farmer or the group level. Next slide. To complement our interventions or our adoptions of technology, we also do impact investments. As you note, complex solar technologies come with high startup costs, and Heifer has a team dedicated to source capital needed to acquire the solar technologies by the farmers or even the farmer groupings. And this is actually where I sit in. We provide capital, both Heifer's funds as well as attracting external capital to entities that are either in current or proposed Heifer projects. So our financing is specifically tailored to interventions that we are deploying with a view of unlocking access to capital in a sustainable way, especially to groups of people who would not have gotten the capital from conventional financing channel. Next slide. Beyond just getting the technology and deploying capital, we also engage actively in what we call the value-based partnership, focusing on both social, environmental, and financial returns. Through partnerships with governments, companies, private organizations, small businesses, and other networks, we collaborate and innovate, thereby creating unique solutions to local challenges designed to build what we'd say are inclusive and resilient economies. So you'd notice that Heifer International is not a solar-centric organization, but solar is center to our ecosystem. Therefore, we leverage on partnerships to identify and disseminate the appropriate solar technologies. A key approach that we are looking into when we're coming into partnership is the longevity of the partnership. Just like in any other social economic intervention, we've noticed that it takes long to change people's mindsets and way of living so that we're able to create impact. We have noticed that as Heifer, interventions that last about 2 to 3 years often gives us outcomes, but not impact, in the manner that after Heifer is out, the beneficiaries usually backtrack to their old ways of doing things. So impact takes longer, and as such, we endeavor to engage long-term partnerships with ability to scale. At this point, I'd want to share some of the examples of how we've applied the 3 buckets, that is technology, impact investing, and partnership. And we'll use a case study of Uganda. Thanks, John. In Uganda, we are closely working with a milk collection center owned by a cooperative. And this milk collection center is fully reliant on diesel. And we've partnered with a solar equipment provider from the USA who has been able to conduct data analysis on fuel usage in generators and how the use of generators could be replaced by solar. So all this data analysis was able to created a platform through which we could be able to put an impact thesis around switching from solar generators, from diesel power generators to solar. So the solar technology that is being deployed in Uganda that we're using is the Sol station. At the center of the diagram there is a Sol station, which looks like a big container with some solar panels at the top. The core purpose of this Sol station is actually to provide power to chill milk chilling tanks. However, we've realized that we can do more than solar and not just use it as an end in itself. So the excess power that is generated by the Sol station is used to power the light industry, which include the tailors that are working in the neighborhood who are using electric sewing machines. It can be able to power light-scale welders, as well as power ICT learning centers, because we also want to make it more like a commercial village. So suffice to say at this point that the linkage between the Sol station and the ICT center is because the Sol station comes with an inbuilt wireless internet capabilities. How does impact capital come in? So we are discussing with the milk collection center with the potential of providing a finance lease for this arrangement. And the reason why we've adopted an approach of a finance lease is that we're bringing in new technology, sometimes which the farmers or the beneficiaries sometimes get skeptical, but when you provide it as a finance lease, it becomes more like they pay for it, they'll own it later, and as they pay for it, they get to use it more and get adapted to the use of the new technology. Definitely with such arrangements, challenges arise, like correct data. By partnering with a company that is providing the Sol station, we were able to collect enough data upfront to be able to justify the business case. And another thing I'll also say as one of the challenges that as Heifer we find with such arrangement is that proving a business case. Note that when you're talking to entities that are off-grid, So we are basically talking about entities that are very much in the rural areas. So most of them are usually either industries at their very nascent levels or really industries that are even struggling to break even. So in that sense, you find that putting a business case for such an entity becomes difficult, but nonetheless, we structure our financing or our investments to be in a manner that can be able to enable them enjoy the benefits of adapting solar while converting the variable cost of generators into a fixed cost. So the impact thesis behind this kind of investment is replacing variable costs of diesel generator with clean fixed costs at the cooperative level. So this is one case study of how we are incorporating solar into milk chilling plants in Uganda. And John, you can move to the next slide. I can share some of how we use a single use of solar. So like I said, it's not just productive use of solar that Heifer is engaged in. We're also having what we call the single use of solar. And mostly the single use of solar is used both, I'd say, at household level and at community level. And this is where we work with farmers and farmer groups to encourage adoption of solar for uses like lighting, water heating, cooking, irrigation, and other domestic uses. The technologies that we apply here are multiple, depending on the region, the purpose, and the objective that we want to achieve. And the partners that we're working with are so many. So we have many multiple partners depending on the country that we're working with. Some case studies that we are doing for single use of solar, I'd say that John is in Rwanda. So in Rwanda, we are participating in a project for single use of solars at the milk collection centers with UK-based companies. For those who are dialing in probably from Zambia, we've partnered with a Paygo solar provider in Zambia to be able to provide solar equipment to farmers. In countries like Senegal, which is absolutely solar rich and with lack of surface water, with a lot of underground waters, we've done projects on water pumps, which have been enabling these farmers to be able to tap the underground water for farming purposes. Just like the productive use of solar, single use of solar also has its fair share of challenges. And one of the biggest challenge that we're facing, of course, with a single use of solar, especially at the household level, is the upfront cost of solar adoption for smallholder farmers that Samir might mention based on his article that he wrote on the 24th of July. The upfront costs are usually some of the biggest challenges that individual farmers that usually face. However, we try to work around these as Heifer through our impact investments to get financing arrangements like guarantees, smart guarantees, or even direct investment to solution providers or Paygo solar providers. And this kind of investment would probably provide some capital that patient enough to enable these solution providers deploy this capital to our farmers. So just to wrap up, I'd say that in as much as solar, Heifer is not solar centric. Solar is key to our work in agriculture, and it's the future in terms of trying to get a source of sustainable energy for the farmers. And at Heifer, we are constantly looking for long-term partnerships with whom we could support solar adoption in agriculture over a period that I'd say is long enough for us to gather not just outcomes, but impacts that are long-lasting. I'd pause at this point and return the mic back to John. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much for sharing a bit about Heifer's work. And yeah, I'm sure many of the listeners will be interested in reaching out to you, because it really feels like you are the part that is often missing between people who need the benefit of solar energy and companies and SMEs that have solutions but don't necessarily have the appropriate solution, especially when you raise that point about the financing. So it's great to know that there are companies out there doing the work you are doing. We will be moving on now to the presentation of SunCulture, but before we do so, you will notice that there is a slight change in speaker. Samir apologizes for not being able to make it today. Unfortunately, he had something unexpected come up and kept him away. But we are very lucky to have Hannah, who will be telling us a bit more about SunCulture's activity. As you can see, Anna is a very experienced professional with almost 10 years in international development, cooperation, and investment throughout Africa. She's been working with SunCulture since 2017 and previously held roles with GIZ and DEG. And she holds a master's in international management from King's College London and a bachelor's in African studies and management. So without further ado, Hannah, very happy to welcome you. Thanks for jumping in last minute, but very, very happy to listen to you and to discover a bit more about SunCulture.
Thank you, John, for the introduction. So yeah, as you rightfully said, my name is Hannah Dornbusch. I head the business development efforts of SunCulture. And at SunCulture, we strive to develop life-changing technologies for smallholder farmers across the world that solve their biggest daily challenges. We are based here in Kenya, so I'm actually calling in from Nairobi today, but we're also working with partners in Uganda, Zambia, Senegal, Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo. So Paul, definitely I'm very interested to also pick your brain after this and kind of see, you know, Senegal and irrigation as well as Kenya, how we can work together. So I'll take you through kind of what I guess inspired SunCulture to start on the mission of providing solar-powered irrigation to smallholder farmers. As many of you may know, 96% of Africa's smallholder farmers actually rely on rain-fed agriculture. And with changing weather patterns due to climate change, it becomes harder for smallholders to rely on the rain for a productive farm. And that really results in three realities for smallholder farmers in Africa. So they tend to grow low-value crops. So because the farmers can't rely on consistent water supply, they tend to then grow crops like maize and beans that are a bit more resilient to drought. It also results in lower yields. So even with kind of more drought resilient crops, if they don't get the right amount of water at the right growing stage, and with the changing weather patterns, that results in overall lower yield. So you can see that Africa's agricultural productivity is actually 50% lower than the world average. The third reality and challenge is that there are limited growing seasons. So due to relying on rain, farmers can also only grow in the rainy season and cannot grow during the dry seasons. And even with changing weather patterns, it's harder to rely on these rainy seasons. So those three factors really lead for farmers to be trapped at the bottom of the productivity ladder by on average kind of making around 600 and 1,000 USD annually and constantly being exposed to risk and of financial loss really. If you go to the next slide, you will see that irrigation is really the first step on the productivity ladder. So with irrigation, higher yields can be achieved between 2 and 5 times, and farmers can then reinvest that income into additional productive use technology. So this ladder is by no means the way it has to go, but it gives an indication of after a successful and fruitful harvest and additional income, farmers can then invest in higher quality inputs and post-harvesting processing, cold storage, etc., and essentially get out of the trap of the bottom of the productivity ladder. What you'll also see on the next slide is that irrigation is a huge opportunity in Africa. So one of the things that is available is groundwater, and it is very crucial to have groundwater in order to irrigate sustainably. The groundwater is actually sufficient enough to increase current irrigation levels by 20 times. The other fact is that there is an abundance of sun. So working with solar power irrigation or solar powered technologies overall really makes a lot of sense, and now is really the right time as well. There's a lot of investment being done into renewable energy and solar in particular, and battery technology. So what we will see in the coming years is really that technologies become cheaper and more efficient as we go on. Another factor is that there is mobile connectivity. I'm not sure where everyone is calling in from, but I for myself can say that the connectivity in Kenya is definitely better than the one in Germany. And so with a high mobile penetration, services can really be streamlined. So this can be, you know, making remote payments. All of our payments are, for instance, made via M-Pesa. It can really ease communication. And then also it can provide a potential for data-driven precision agriculture. Fourthly, the time is right because there is arable land available in Africa. So 65% of the unused arable land is actually in Africa, and irrigation will help unlock the potential and the productivity of that land. So on the next slide, I will take you through a little bit more about our approach and our systems. So we've kind of seen what is the problem and the gap in the market, and what is the opportunity. And we started designing around this. So we've created the Rainmaker 2, which is our flagship product, by no means our only product, but it has the highest specification in the market. So most of the farmers in Africa, you'll see, have different kinds of water sources. There'll be lakes, rivers, dams, wells, boreholes, and there is a need to have a flexible system that can plug into these farm realities. So the system actually is able to plug into all of these water sources. It also has a 70-meter head, so that means it can tap into the available groundwater and make irrigation a sustainable exercise. Package as SunCulture. So there are different products in the market, but there's often a problem of hidden cost. So farmers might get the quote for a solar pump, but what is not included might be the panel or the piping or the training on even how to use the systems. So what we did is we really bundled everything together that the farmer needs from the get-go to start irrigating immediately and do so correctly and efficiently. The system comes together with piping, with cabling. We deliver the system free of charge. We install the system for the farmers and train the farmers on how to use it most ideally. And then also very importantly, there is a warranty. So what we also see with some of the systems in the market is, you know, products are being dumped, but if there is a problem, the company isn't really able to assist. So that was a really, really big aspect as well that's important for us. Thirdly, and Paul mentioned that already as well, is the financing piece of it. So a lot of farmers will benefit greatly from solar pumping, everyone really, but the high upfront cost is usually too high for smallholder farmers to make it accessible to them. So what we do is that we finance our product on our own platform, which we call Pay As You Grow. And so in this system, farmers make a small deposit and then repay the system on a monthly basis with incremental installments. So this then means that the farmers can actually repay with the increased income they're making from having a more productive farm. And fourthly, we provide the ability to continue up the productivity ladder. So the Rainmaker 2, we usually see as the starter kit for farmers. But but we have other systems that can then plug into the system. So for instance, drip irrigation, one of the most efficient uses of irrigation, in particular if you're looking at horticultural production. We also have a TV that can plug into the system that is preloaded with agronomy support shows to also guide farmers further along on how to get the best out of their farm. Looking kind of at what that means for our farmers is that it enables a 5 to 10 times increase of their income. And that is really achieved through a few different realities. So farmers are able to increase their yield by 2 to 5 times. And because that is essentially because we're eliminating the risk for them to lose their harvest due to droughts. The farmer is also able to grow more cash crops. So because the water supply is guaranteed, farmers can now look around to doing horticultural crops, which again fetch higher prices in the market and are also higher in nutritional value. Farmers are able to save time. Our farmers, previous of getting the systems, spent about 17.1 hours a week on fetching water, which if you think about it is essentially a half-time job. So freeing up that time also means that can be spent more effectively on the farm, getting it up and more productive. Another factor that we've seen, and again, I'm already thinking about Paul here and the cooling facility you provided, is that there is, it's beneficial for livestock and milk. So we've seen milk production double and also provide more income for farmers that way. More land can be used under irrigation. And then obviously the benefit of having access to clean energy. That's again, it obviously makes the access to energy cheaper if you're switching from kerosene or electricity provided nationally, but it's also much cleaner and healthier. David is one of the farmers that we have worked with so far. So I want to take you through his journey a little bit more in detail. So he's a customer that has greatly benefited from SunCulture. And he lives in an area called Wasengishu. And when we kind of first met him, he did the quick math and he saw that the system compared to his current system, which was petrol pumps, a petrol pump made a lot of sense and caused him to change. So that was about 5 months ago. And he's already seen the benefits quite a bit. So he, first of all, expanded the land under irrigation from 1 acre to 3 acres. He's producing 5 times more cabbage and 1.5 times more potatoes. He can now grow in the dry season. So that means prices are also higher because demand is higher. So that increased by 10 times. He also started diversifying, so kind of experimenting a little bit with different crops, mainly herbs. He's in the process of buying more cows and also thinking through production of yogurt to sell in the market. And what he also mentioned is that he has a better quality of life now. So again, what we kind of went into before on this slide, he has much more time that he doesn't need to adjust the petrol pump, etc., move the hose pipes. He doesn't have any respiratory problems anymore. And the additional income he can use for his children to provide them with a better education. And really what we see, if we have many more farmers such as David, there can be a massive change to the wider economy as well. So what we would see be affected is, for one, definitely food security would be improved. So instead of spending money to import food, African countries would be in a position to feed themselves. It would also mean that this is the first step to making farmers resilient and attractive to the wider investment sector. So with eliminating the problem of kind of climate change and drought, farmers' income and harvest will be a lot more predictable and stable. So that means that other investments can be made into the farm, and he's just becoming a more attractive individual for other companies as well. And then it's obviously fueling the greater economic growth. So having more people employed, there are many projects, for instance, at the moment as well, going on into bringing more youth back into the agricultural sector. And with systems like this, I think it could also be made more interesting to the youth. But yeah, what we're kind of looking at, what are our next steps? So irrigation is kind of the first step on our journey. And combining this with more information, with financing this along the way, and providing additional services to help farmers make better decisions is the way to go. So on the next slide, you'll see that the climate smart system is kind of the access point for more application, and in particular, more productive use applications. So we're already testing around and seeing what the next application can be that farmers can plug into to increase their productivity even further and rise on that productivity ladder. And on the other slide, next slide ahead, we're also looking at how can we use data points. So all of our systems are IoT connected. So that means we don't just get a lot of data that we're collecting through our unique credit scoring process, but also from the systems themselves. So for instance, we can see what appliance is being used at what time, for how long, how much water therefore is being pumped, etc. And combining this information, analyzing it properly, and then essentially providing more services to farmers is the way to go. So our farmers already receive weather forecasts, but we can go even deeper, advising them how to use irrigation best in future. On the next slide, you'll see that we're led by a very experienced team that are taking us through the journey, but also partners are very essential for us to reach our next level. So you see a couple of them, EDF, Microsoft, Shell, that have been quite instrumental in achieving our growth as we've seen so far. Thank you so much for giving me this time, and excited to hear if there are any questions.
Thank you. It's not like a marginal percentage increase. In many cases, it sounds like you can really have like a very, very impactful approach to the existing farming activity. Very, very impressive there. And also the human creativity on coming up with new names. I really like the pay as you grow term. Very, very interesting, very nice wordplay.
Thank you.
Or you mentioned in your presentation about the ladder. Your presentation focused on irrigation, and actually our next presenter will talk about another step that you mentioned in your ladder, which is refrigeration and its application for avoiding post-harvest losses. So I'm very, very happy to welcome Nnaemeka. Nnaemeka is the CEO of ColdHubs in Nigeria. As he presents himself, he's a farmer, radio presenter, and social entrepreneur. I've personally added an expert in solar-powered cooling technology. He's been leading ColdHubs since 2015, but at the same time, he's also the executive director of the Smallholders Foundation. He studied both in Italy and in Nigeria, and he's a multi-award winner. As you can see, won the Yara Prize for Green Revolution in Japan in 2013, International Food Prize in 2012, and a little bit earlier, Nigeria's Young Person of the Year Award. So we're very, very lucky to have Nnaemeka with us today. Yes, please, everybody's all ears. Nnaemeka, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, John, for the wonderful introduction. I am very well honored and privileged to be part of this wonderful presentation. And thank you very much for inviting me. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Nnaemeka Ikegwuonu, and founder, CEO of ColdHubs. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about our work deploying 100% solar-powered cold storage to extend shelf life of food. Next slide, please. The problem we are tackling in Nigeria as a first instance is food spoilage. It is estimated that 45% of food spoils in Nigeria due to lack of cold storage that is needed to extend the shelf life of that food at key points within the food supply chain. And this problem affects an estimated 93 million smallholder farmers all across the country, and they lose an estimated 25% of their annual income due to this food spoilage. It is really very conservative estimate out there. When you travel across these small villages and communities, you see that actually food spoilage is more than 45%. And the annual income loss is actually more than 25% that is being estimated. Next slide, please. This problem of lack of cold storage is actually because the power grids are not capable of delivering reliable energy. So when you go across Nigerian farm clusters, horticultural produce aggregation centers, and outdoor food markets, you will discover that there is no form of cold refrigeration available. And this problem, again, aside the fact that the power grids are not capable of delivering reliable energy, you also discover when you travel outside Nigeria to the developed West, you discover there are huge refrigerated warehouses which can actually take stock from 50,000 to 80,000 pallets of food. Is way expensive for these smallholder farmers, retailers, and wholesalers to actually invest in. And in some cases, governments find it very expensive to also invest in. Next slide, please. So considering all these challenges, in 2015, we founded ColdHubs as a company that deploys 100% solar-powered working cold rooms in farm clusters, in produce aggregation centers, in outdoor food markets, bringing refrigeration, cold storage to smallholder farmers, retailers, and wholesalers of fresh fruits, vegetables, and other perishable food. And the cold hub is very well designed. It was oversized with an installed power generation capacity of 6 kilowatts, refrigerating space that can cool down 3 tons of food, and also energy stored in more than 40 kilowatts of batteries. What we tried to do with the cold hub was we asked ourselves, like, how do we deploy cold storage in the middle of a farm where farmers are planting, and that is robust enough, that sustainable, that can work throughout the season, you know, and that led us to actually oversize the system with installed capacity of 6 kilowatts every hour, and the refrigerating unit, which is very energy efficient, taking very small amount of energy at the maximum load of 1.5 kilowatts every hour. Next slide, please. But you know, technology is one thing that you deploy to smallholder farmers in Nigeria and also Africa. Adopting that technology becomes the challenge, you know. So when we built out ColdHubs, we decided also that we are working with people who have never actually put tomatoes or green beans or green pepper in cold storage before. So we built a post-harvest management educational class around the cold hub. So the educational class teaches these smallholder farmers everything from best practices in harvesting to the benefit of having cold storage, and also to the financial analysis of having high quality food available for sale in the market, you know. So we deliver these classes with over 5 days, and that is actually the game changer. By the end of the 5th day, when we do a demonstration, putting in food inside the cold room and placing some food outside, coming the next day and allowing them to open the cold room and see the quality of that food kept inside the cold room and the quality of those kept outside, the difference is always clear. And at that time, these farmers and retailers start adopting the technology and the service. Next slide, John. Thank you. But the ultimate goal of what we want to do is to extend the shelf life from 2 days to 21 days. We are introducing for the first time returnable plastic crates that can be stacked on top of each other. And each of those plastic crates takes about 20 kilograms of food. And this cold hub takes about 150 of these returnable plastic crates. So we are working with farmers and other food supply chain actors who are actually storing for the first time. So over the past 3 years, we deployed 24 cold hubs. In 2019, we were able to save 20,400 tons of food from spoilage. That is the total amount of food stored in our cold rooms. We signed up 3,517 smallholder farmers and other users, and they increased their income from 60 US dollar to 120 US dollar every month. We created 28 new jobs for women by hiring and training them to work as our hub operators, overseeing the loading and offloading of food and collection of user fee. And we also saved more than 400,000 tons of CO2 by kg of CO2, by kicking out diesel generators and relying on solar energy as our exclusive power supply all across our cold rooms. Next slide, please. But the revenue model, we call it pay as you store. As you are storing, you are actually paying. So it's a pay as you store model where we are charging the equivalent of 50 US cents to store one of those 20 kilogram plastic crates inside the cold room every day. Each cold room again holds about 150 of those crates. So as a business, from a business perspective, you can do 75 US dollar in revenue every day. Each cold hub costs us 27,000 US dollar to put together, and that is including capex and cost of clearing through Nigerian customs. So if you can fill up the cold room from day one, you can actually break even from that initial investment in less than 18 months. But we adopt a break even rate of between 24 to 32 months, considering the fluctuations in effect. Cold hubs at the moment that's under construction. We will have about 54 cold hubs by the end of 2020, possibly slightly higher than that. We're also deploying cold rooms specially designed for fish and meat at the moment, and also increasing the holding capacity of our cold rooms from 3 tons to about 10 tons, targeting Irish potatoes, carrots, and several other commodities grown upper in the north of Nigeria. Next slide, please. From right there, we're also looking at a growth model targeting logistics, looking at energy efficient transportation that can help us move food from cold rooms strategically installed in food production clusters in the north of Nigeria and bring them to cold rooms strategically installed in food consumption centers, outdoor markets in the south of Nigeria, and also using that same energy efficient transportation services to actually move imported food like apples, grapes, kiwi fruits, and pear, all the way from the coastal seaports in the south of Nigeria to the north of Nigeria too. Next slide, please. The team behind ColdHubs includes myself, founder, CEO. I'm supported by Bright, who is our Chief Operating Officer holding an MBA and has experience in business development. Maxwell, an electrical and electronics engineer, who actually builds with his technical team the ColdHubs and maintains it all the way. And Perez, who oversees our finance and administration, and several other people who are helping us do this work. The entire team is 31 today from a humble beginning of only 3. So we're on a very long trajectory of growth. A lot of growth has been undertaken over the past 5 years. Next slide. And that growth is supported by a lot of partners, including venture philanthropy, impact investors, and international development partners like GIZ and Factor E Ventures, the USAID, and the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, who has supported the growth of ColdHubs all the way. Next slide. So in a nutshell, that is the work we are doing at ColdHubs, and my email is nnaemeka@coldhubs.com. I'm reachable on the phone. You can also visit our website, and I'll be staying by to answer any questions you will have. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you. It's an honor for me.
Thank you, Nnaemeka. Thank you very much, and truly appreciate. I know as a regular listener of webinars being organized by other entities, I personally always love to see numbers, and you are very transparent and very specific about the impact and the potential savings there. And I'm sure this has also been of great interest to the listeners. By the way, I mean, this is reflecting in the many questions we are already receiving. I'm sure that most of you who are listening in are now familiar with the way Zoom works. But if this is one of your first time, at the bottom of your screen, you should see an opportunity to ask questions with the logo Q&A. Please use and abuse of this service, because we will be holding a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. And probably better to ask your questions in the Q&A rather than in the chat section. That's the one recommendation of the day. So please use the Q&A section. We will be moving on now to a different type of solar application in the agricultural industry. With Anco and with Yoann, we have 2 speakers today, 2 representatives from Victron Energy. I will introduce Anco first. Anco is a support engineer in Mali for Victron Energy. He's been working on solar energy installation specifically for water and electricity supply. He started his career in the telecom industry, but then relocated to Mali for working on off-grid energy projects. And he holds an engineering degree in telecommunications from the Hoge Technische School in Rijswijk in the Netherlands. And our second speaker from Victron is Yoann Lefol, who is sales manager for Victron across West and Central Africa, but also Madagascar. Yoann has more than 10 years experience in renewable energy, utilities, and development aids, and he has been working with Victron since 2016. He holds a master's in environmental industrial engineering, as well as a master's in energy, sustainable energy from the Aalborg University in Denmark. So I believe it will be Yoann who will be taking the word for the presentation from Victron and the case study in Mali.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Yoann Lefol, and I'm sales manager at Victron Energy for West and Central Africa. And I'm together today with Anco van Bergeijk, who is a support engineer for West Africa. I will tell you a bit about Victron Energy, and then we'll dive into a case study about a large farm in Mali, which is supplied by solar energy. So shortly about Victron Energy, we are a Dutch company that was founded 45 years ago. And we are a leader in the design and manufacture of quality components for battery-based energy systems. We have quite a wide product range, including pure sine wave inverters, inverter chargers, solar chargers, monitoring systems, and even more. Our products are used worldwide in actually many different applications. wherever you need like independent energy systems, that can be in boats, in vehicles, but or in telecom, but our main market is actually solar energy. Next slide, please, John. So when it comes to the off-grid and grid edge market, we also have a wide range of solutions. It goes from small solar home systems, starting at 50 watt peak, up to larger micro or mini grid of 200 kilowatt peak. And these solutions are used in many different sectors and applications. That can be residential applications, but also rural electrification, agriculture, of course, health, tourism, and also CNI applications. Yeah, next slide. Our presence in Africa is actually quite important. You can see a lot of blue products in almost everywhere. We have a network of train installers and distributors in more than 25 countries. These local partners do import the products and we sell them locally, but they also provide technical support and manage after-sales service. We organize trainings on a very regular basis, I would say in normal times. For instance, in West and Central Africa, we usually do technical trainings every second or third month. We have thousands of references all over the countries. And today, I want to speak about a specific case study. Our products are used in many agricultural projects, but I wanted to highlight a special one here. It's about an industrial farm in Mali that is fully powered by solar energy. This farm is located 40 kilometers away from Bamako, in a village called Joliba. It was created more than 6 years ago by a Malian entrepreneur, and they produce fishes, quite large volumes, actually 5 tons a day, but also chickens, dairy products, and vegetables. I'll come to that after. And the initial challenges of the owner was actually to find affordable land price, because you will see the farm takes quite a lot of space, which required to be some distance away from the capital city, Bamako, meaning as well that the grid will not be there. So that's why they decided to go for solar energy. And next slide, please, John. Yeah, so here you can see an overview of the farm. It's a drone picture that was taken a bit more than a year ago. You see that the farm is divided towns where all the fishes are produced. On the right side, you can see the poultry houses where they breed chickens. And on the top, you can see the greenhouses. At that time, they were under constructions, but now it's fully completed. Yeah, on the corner, on the left corner, you see where is the livestock, and in the middle, you can see some buildings where they actually produce the feed for the animals. That's a factory. And all these different parts of the farm are actually powered by solar energy, as you can see on the picture now. It goes from very quite small Victron systems of 3 kilowatt peak up to much larger installations of 180 kilowatt peak. They supply the different energy needs of the farm. One of the main ones is actually to the requirements for the fish productions, because all the ponds in the water needs to be recycled in all the ponds and needs to be oxygenated, which takes quite a lot of power. But also in the poultry, in the chicken houses, there are some few incubators, which are quite energy demanding. In the greenhouses, there is also needs for pumping water and treating water, but also to regulate the heat. So all these needs are covered by solar energy. And it's quite decentralized. You see a lot of different power plants, and the reason is that the farm has increased over the years, and having these different solar installations was quite a flexible way to follow the increase or the growth of the farm. So all in all, we have more than yeah, if you can stay on the previous slide, John, please. All in all, we have more than 500 kilowatt peak of solar PV installed, and it was all done by a local company with our support. And this local company is Nyandika Solar. It's our partner in Mali, and Anco has also helped on the technical design and the commissioning phase. Yes, next slide. So I wanted to give you some illustrations of different solar solutions that are on the site. Two actually. The first one that you can see here is the Victron Energy systems that supply the factory that produce feed for the chicken and the fishes. So it's a 180 kilowatt peak solar system. The solar field is connected on 6 PV inverters from Fronius. These inverters convert the AC power from the solar PV so DC power from the solar PV to AC power for the loads, and all excess energy is actually charges the battery through the inverter chargers from Victron Energy. And so we have a total of 180 kVA of inverter chargers, and the battery banks makes a total of 700 kilowatt hour. It's lead acid technology, so they are OPZS batteries. There is also 380 kVA genset, which is only used a few hours per month in case there is the batteries are very low in state of charge, or if we need to maintain the solar system. Everything is monitored online on our platform through a monitoring device. This other site this other installation is actually powering the greenhouses. Sorry for the pictures, it's a bit messy and dusty, but I can actually explain you why. Initially, it was a 40 kilowatt peak solar system with 45 kVA of inverter chargers, and they are currently upgrading it and making the size twice bigger. So now it's a 90 kilowatt peak solar system plus 7 kilowatt peak on solar chargers, and there is a total of 90 kVA of inverter chargers from Victron. What's interesting about this solution is that it includes lithium battery technologies. There are actually now 12 battery pack of 10 kilowatt hour from BYD, and which is nice in terms of lifetime of the battery and also efficiency of the system. Thank you, John. So this project is actually quite a success story. The owner is very happy about his decision to go for solar a few years ago. The return on investment compared to a project that would run on genset or on generator only is below 5 years. The farm has created more than 70 jobs full-time. There is actually many more people working depending on the season. And by using solar against generator only, it avoids emission of 400 tons of CO2 per year. And well, also the project in general is very beneficial for the local economy. All the production is sold on the local market, which enable to decrease the imports of food in Bamako and improve the food security in the region. So yes, that's it about this project. You can watch the video about it. It's a very interesting video available on YouTube, and happy to receive your questions at the end of the session, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Yoann, and congratulations for this project. If I understood correctly, the system was working as expected, and this is how the farmer actually managed to keep on increasing his activity over the years. So we were earlier in this webinar today talking about impact. Well, to me, that's a tangible impact for that one individual who managed to secure a viable and commercially interesting solution thanks to solar. We will remain in the fish industry with our last but not least speaker, who is Maxime Savinelli from Akuo Energy. Maxime will actually present about a project in the Reunion Island. So technically this is not really Africa, but it's really in the same region. And this is quite an amazing project. Quick word of introduction about Maxime. Maxime has 5 years of experience in renewable energy, rural electrification, as well as energy efficiency. He's been working with Akuo Energy now for the last 3 years, and previously worked with the AFD, Agence Française de Développement, as well as EDF and Heifer Energy in South Africa. And he holds a master's in engineering from the prestigious Mines University in France. And so very happy to welcome Maxime. On top of this, well, as I mentioned earlier on, Akuo is one of the founding members of AFSIA. So really happy to have an opportunity to share some of your great projects in Indian Ocean. Maxime, it's up to you. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Yoann. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to share about agri-energy, a concept that is dedicated to the agricultural transition and that Akuo Energy has been trying to develop for 10 years now. Please, next slide. So I will present briefly Akuo Energy, which is a French independent power producer. It was founded in 2007 by 2 individuals, which remain the 2 main shareholders of the company. It's a company which is based in Paris, but we have a very globalized activity with 18 offices across the 5 continents, almost 70 power plants in construction or operation, totalizing 1.2 gigawatts of installed capacity. We stay in the whole value chain of the project during development, financing, construction, and operation, and long-term majority owners of the assets. And we deal with all types of renewable energy, solar, wind, biomass, storage, and also small hydro. As we stay in the long term as owners of the plants, no, we can say, I think on the previous slide, we on energy sales, and which amounted to 260 million euros in 2019. In Africa, we successfully commissioned a solar plant in Mali, 50 megawatt plant in Kita in March 2020. We also have put in operation a 17 megawatt power plant in Mauritius, and a 4 megawatt, 2 megawatt hour storage capacity to do some frequency and voltage regulation on the grid. And we are building a 3.5 megawatt solar plant in Madagascar. We can now go to the next slide. On top of its core IPP business, Akuo is also a solutions developer. For instance, we offer some modular containerized electricity production and storage solutions. They are called the GEM products, floating solar structures with a French company named Ciel et Terre, solar tiles with a SunStyle product. And we have also developed, and it's the topic today, a concept that we called agri-energy, and which target is to combine farming and energy production on the same site. So this concept was based on the observation that in some places where there is a harsh competition on the land use, the ground-mounted solar PV plants could reduce the available arable lands, and then the energy production could enter into a competition with the food production. So the initial idea was quite simple, actually. It was just to adapt the PV design to allow the farmers to keep on running their agriculture activities. So, for instance, on the next slide, we can see an example of what we call the first generation of agri-energy plants in Pierrefonds, one of 4 solar power plants in Réunion Island. And you can see that the PV plant was designed so that the surplus land, which is between the rows of panels, could still be used by the farmers. And in this example, the farmer is cropping some organic lemongrass production. We have also examples with productions of apricots, passion fruits, geranium, flowers, all types of gardening, and even raising chickens under or in between the panels. Then I think we tried to push the concept a bit further, and based on a systematic analysis of the context of agriculture in the territories where we were developing solar plants, we tried to set up frameworks that would not only allow farming to continue on the same land, but that would benefit to the farming activities, and that would bring financial, social, and technical positive externalities to the farmers. So I will give a range of examples where, based on the observation of a specific context, we tried to adapt the projects to serve the farming activity. So for instance, on the next slide, we can see the second generation of projects we developed, again in Réunion Island, where we installed where we noticed the farmers claimed that they were facing some extreme weather events. And so we installed greenhouses with a semi-photovoltaic cover so that it could ensure enough light and the good conditions for farming while protecting the crops from the vagaries of weather, based on cyclone-proof greenhouses. So for instance, this project is in Saint-Joseph in Réunion Island. It's called Agri-Energy 5, and it's made of solar cyclone-proof greenhouses. A few years later, and on the next slide, we can see that we faced another type of constraint, which was the intermittency of solar energy. And it pushed us to develop a third generation of agri-energy projects, which combined solar, storage, and agriculture on the same land. And so here you can see in Réunion Island, still in Bardzor, another agri-energy plant. In other places, and we will see in the next slides, farmers were interested to have the benefits from PV shadings to run their fish farming ponds, and that triggered the concept of Akuo Energy, so the adaptation of agri-energy, of course. And for instance, in this example, still in Réunion Island, in Les Cèdres, we have some PV shadings that shelter tilapia fish ponds, which are run by the farmers on the site. Back in metropolitan France, on the next slide, we faced the issue of transforming lands that were used previously for industrial purposes and that were not very likely to welcome agriculture activities. And the idea was to improve the soil and to develop a natural ecosystem that would be good for both energy and farming. And so we try to implement what we call the concept of ferme d'Akuo, farm of Akuo. And the goal is to combine renewable energy, organic farming, but also social impact through education and local participation. And so this is an example in Piolenc in the south of France, where we have a 17 megawatt floating solar plant and where we are building around it agriculture activities. But what I would like to say is that at first, this agri-energy concept was to face competition on the land and to put, and the simple idea was to put on the same land solar and agriculture. But here, and maybe it's more interesting for many of the African countries, because as Anna underlined, there is the availability of land. here the idea is really to adapt the structure of PV panels so that it improves the context for agriculture. So because when we put when we adapt the model for instance, with greenhouses or PV shadings, it modifies the conditions in terms of temperature, in terms of humidity, shading, protection against the illnesses, rodents, and insects. And so if it's well done, if it's well thought, we notice that it can, for instance, decrease the needs in terms of water. So it reduces the water stress in places where there is scarcity of water resources. It reduces the chemical inputs that are necessary to grow the crops, and we really try to push organic farming each time we have an agri-energy project. And it can also enhance the soil quality. So I would add on the next slide that on one of the, apart from the let's say farming and technical aspects, we also thought that there are lots of financing pockets which are available for renewable energy, and we thought that it could be great if part of this fund could be diverted for the agricultural transition to unlock financing possibilities. And for instance, with Maïf, a French insurer, we set up a Maïf transition fund, a part of it that will be dedicated to renewable energy projects developed by ourselves in France. But 20% of the financing will go to support the farmlands, for instance, for the acquisition of lands or for the investments in the farming equipment. And this is to help financially, not only technically, the farming activities where we are developing projects. Maybe on the last slide, I would like to maybe do a recap of 3 main points that could serve as a conclusion after this tour around the different projects we have been trying to develop. I think first, we believe that for an agri-energy project, for it to truly benefit to the farmers and not only to serve to have side good effects that should make just the renewable energy more acceptable for people. But if we target to have a really good impact, we believe that farmers must be involved in the design of the project as early as possible in the feasibility stage. And that's why Akuo, for instance, entitled AgriTerra, which is a sister company and dedicated to farming activities, and which is leading the innovation in our agri-energy projects, and with several personnel who are specialized in the agricultural sector. They're able to identify the needs of farmers and to help us to design the solar PV plant in an efficient way. Second, I would say that an agri-energy project for us must be a compromise between the economic, social, and technical interest. Our goal is to ensure, of course, a reliant and competitive energy production, but we also have to create the maximum of benefits in terms of farming, organic production, soil conservation, plant and job creation, and revenues for the farmers. And of course, you will probably say that adapting the PV design might have an impact on the tariff, because of course, if you lift the PV shadings or if you build greenhouses, the capex price per watt peak might be greater than for a simple ground-mounted PV plant. But we believe that if the positive externalities on the farming activity exceed this tariff impact, the project global impact should be assessed in a holistic approach. And of course, the different projects I presented prove that there is a business model for it, and it can be sustainable both in its energy and farming components. And last, third conclusion maybe, we believe that an agri-energy project should be designed through a bottom-up approach. As you could notice, we don't necessarily have one technology that we try to spread in the same way in all the territories, but we rather start with AgriTerra by assessing the agricultural context and the specific needs in terms of temperature, shading, humidity, protection, against insects, but also financing. And based on that, we try to design a customized PV plant which best addresses the needs, while, as I said, unlocking the maximum economic, social, and technical opportunities for the agriculture activity. And this is to try to lead at the same time the energy and food transition without any competition between them. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Maxime, and always great to hear about all these very cutting edge and just entrepreneurial projects done by Akuo. It's never, as you just mentioned, never like a one-size-fits-all solution from Akuo, but really always looking at the specific situation of the end user and trying to bring him the most adapted solution. We have now reached, thank you to all our speakers today. We have now finally reached our Q&A session. I've seen the number of questions pile up, and thanks for your patience there and for sharing all your questions. I will do my best to sort and address the most of them, but I do know we will not be able to address all of them. This being said, please, if you have a question specific to one speaker, mention that clearly, mention your email address, and we will make sure to transfer that question to the appropriate speaker, because we want you to get the most value out of this webinar today. In terms of the general questions, many questions are about the price and the affordability. How much does it cost per kilowatt hour? How much does it cost per day? I know from experience that this is a very difficult question to answer, because it depends on the specific situation of the off-taker. But another slightly related question is, are your solutions adapted to everybody? Or are there particular requirements? Are there particular conditions for people who are currently listening to actually be able to benefit from your solutions and from your projects? And I would like to do a little bit of a roundtable question on this, and maybe start with Paul, if you could in simple words explain if you have those conditions for identifying the type of end users that can benefit from your support and from your solutions, or if it's really just a question of dropping you an email and looking at the situation case by case. As well as I said, I will start with Paul, and then I will ask the same questions to all speakers.
Thanks, John. Quick answer is that our solutions are actually tailored to support the beneficiaries of our NGO work. So our solutions actually go hand in hand with where we are doing our NGO work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. What about you, Hannah? Can anybody just reach out to SunCulture and just purchase one of your products off the shelf, or is there more conditions that come into play in your case?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So there is, I guess, so anyone can reach out to us, and we will definitely have a chat with everyone and anyone. The limitation, I guess, that comes with the solar water pumping is that there needs to be a source of water. So this is one of the items, and then also if the system, if the individual is interested in getting the system through our on our pay-as-you-grow platform, we will take them through a questionnaire as well.
Thank you. Maybe the same question to Maxime, Yoann, and Anco. You have described installations of bigger size than the other solutions presented. Is this one of your, is there like a minimal size for you to start looking at a project? Or was this just the result of the case study that you presented today, but actually you have a range of solutions that you can provide to your customers? We'll start with Yoann.
Yeah, thank you, John. Well, we do have a wide range of solutions, so from very small to very big. Today we presented more like larger systems, but even for smaller needs, there is suitable solutions. And as I said, we have a very wide range of distributors are located in most countries in Africa, so the products are available locally, and all their actually contact details are on our website. And yeah, just to conclude, we also have now pay-as-you-go products. So some distributors are now reselling our products in a pay-as-you-go way. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, same question to Maxime. How about you and Akuo? Do you limit yourself to very specific projects, a certain size of business activity, or are you able to actually adapt and go also for relatively smaller sizes?
Yes, that's a very good question, because most of the projects I presented were large-scale solar power plants connected to the grid. But we are also tackling the small-scale sector with our solar and storage containers. So, for instance, the solar container is a 75 kilowatt peak unit. And that can be installed and unfolded very efficiently in and also displaced if the needs evolve or if the activity is moving. So I would say in terms of size, we are quite flexible from the small scale rural electrification activities to larger scale connected to the grid. And we are involved in rural electrification projects that I didn't talk about, but for instance in MCA Indonesia and MCA Benin, where we are electrifying villages. And in terms of sector, as I mentioned, we're happy to have this bottom-up approach and to tackle any I would say context of agriculture. If the issue is the availability of land, if the issue is the heat or the dry season, if the issue is the humidity and to reduce the water stress, we are happy to innovate and to try to adapt our design to these specific needs. And I would even go further. It's true that today for all of our solar plants, whether they are whatever the size, I would say, and whatever the country, we try to develop this farming component. And the last today that we developed, for instance, is in Mali, together with our 50 megawatt solar plant, which is in Kita. We added jatropha farming elements, and which triggered 180 jobs for women from the Kita village. So yeah, in a nutshell, I would say we are interested in different scales of project, from connected to the grid to rural electrification, and as I said, with our containers of solar and storage. And the idea is really to assess the needs in terms of agriculture, to adapt our design and to tackle really different issues, and that's very different between Mali, metropolitan France, and Réunion Island, for instance.
Yeah, can imagine. And yes, Nnaemeka, I kept you for last to ask you this question, because you already highlighted the first and then further expansion of your solutions in your presentation. But in your case, we've received many questions about what about international expansion? Are you currently sticking to Nigeria only, or are you already looking and considering the possibility of expanding to neighboring country? It seems we have quite a lot of interested people who would like to help you out on that.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. It's always a bit tricky for Nigerians because it's like 200 million people here. So we always look at everywhere like from a Nigerian perspective. But we are looking at international expansion seriously. By 2021, we will be expanding to South Sudan. We have support from the government of Japan that is helping us undertake that expansion. And with the World Bank, we are also expanding to Liberia, also, I think by Q3 2021, actually. We started an expansion already to Tanzania. We undertook a scoping mission to Tanzania and Uganda before the COVID lockdown started. We are still analyzing the outcome of that scoping mission to Tanzania. So we are looking at between Kenya, Uganda, or Tanzania serving as our expansion launching point into East Africa. We've already received a lot of requests from South Africa, but we are considering to expand into the Southern African region from Zambia, and also expanding to West Africa from Nigeria, which already has established roots throughout West Africa. So we are seriously considering expansion. We are all going to expand both the technology and the business model, reaching out directly to smallholder farmers who are at the base of the pyramid, but also serving SMEs. One thing I want to also point out is that aside the fact that we are building cold storage in markets and farm clusters and aggregation centers, we're actually also building for SMEs. People have approached us and we actually build ColdHubs for them in their farms or their supermarkets or their retail centers. Yes.
Yes, thanks for making that clarification. There were indeed some questions about that too, so I'm sure the person who asked that question will be getting in touch with you. I know we're a little bit over time, but really we had like a lot of interesting questions. I would like maybe to take 2 more questions. Most of you are providing, historically or recently have been providing pay-as-you-go solutions. So that means your company is actually taking the financial risk for investing in the equipment and making it available. One of the questions is, what kind of collateral do potential customers need to provide for your solutions? And also a very specific question, but which I found quite interesting. Can animals and cattle actually serve as collateral, especially when you are dealing with farmers? I don't know who want to take a shot as first respondent to this question. Maybe Paul, maybe Hannah.
Probably can just quickly say that I'll allow Anna to expound more. But generally, for the farmers who would take the pay-as-you-go approach, what we would do as the Heifer Impact Investment side would be to work around some guarantee formats with our financial institutions so that we kind of de-risk the collateral requirements that the banks would want. Probably Anna, because she's more into pay-as-you-go, can expound.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. So I think collateral has historically and still is a big issue why farmers, smallholder farmers in particular, are excluded from accessing financial services. So in our case, actually the system itself is the collateral. And because all the systems are IoT connected, we're comfortable doing so. So we can see where the system is. They all have a GPS tracker. We can shut the system off remotely. And so farmers don't actually need to come with collateral.
I'm sure that will be very good news to hear for many of our listeners. On your side, Maxime, for the projects that you are developing and investing in, the capex figures are probably significantly bigger for a one single project. What is the approach of Akuo in terms of collaterals and guarantees that are required?
Yes, so this is a very good question, and this might depend on the business model for the energy and agriculture. I would say initially the simple model, at least with the French tenders, is that there was a specific tender for what we call agri-voltaism, so agriculture and solar. So in fact, the extra cost on the infrastructure is inside the electricity tariff. And then there can be an arrangement with the farmers, which of course can vary. But for instance, if it's the land of the farmer, Of course, the farmer is leasing the land to the developer, but still has a right to crop on this land based on, of course, a PV structure that allows this farming activity. But we are also, of course, open to more, I would say, specific business models in case the energy cannot take the full extra cost on the infrastructure. I guess that the farming revenues would, the farming revenues would have to be adequate with the extra cost on the energy to compensate, I would say, the energy company, so that the impact on the tariff is not too high. And that's where we are. Of course, we are at first an energy player, and we know a lot of actors which finance renewable assets, but we are also very interested and trying to dig further this topic with financing institutions that would be interested in financing farming activities, because that could serve also to take part of this extra cost, and again, that has to be adequate with the business model of the farming activity, assuming that we manage to have a good production, which is helped again and by the energy infrastructure, and for instance that has less expenses in terms of chemicals, water, and that reaches better yields.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I hate to be this person, but I think we can have one more question, and it's a question that came up several times in the Q&A box. Question about local manufacturing. There's a growing number of companies trying to position themselves with regards to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Makes a lot of sense, and also a lot of people who are very, very sensitive to trying to buy equipment which is actually manufactured on the continent. I would like to ask this question to Nnaemeka, and Yoann and Anco first, to have their opinion on this local manufacturing aspect. How ingrained is this in their solutions and in their equipment? How important is this for them as a company, but also for their customers? Is this also something that customers insist on and are asking from you? Nnaemeka, maybe first.
Yes, it's a very important thing for our company. We are trying as much as possible to have more local parts than imported parts, but we unfortunately have to rely on imported parts like batteries and inverters and possibly our block cooling system for a period of time before local manufacturing kicks off within that respect. But we've been successful in achieving 60% of our cold hub parts being locally sourced, from our cold room walls to our mounting structure to our plastic crates. 60% of our parts are locally sourced. We would like to achieve 100% of our parts local, but again, because we need to import some components which are not readily available in Nigeria, we are still investigating and looking at how we can start producing some of those, which is really difficult, so we have to rely on some of our suppliers for the next couple of years until probably some companies start to manufacture probably the batteries, the inverters, the cooling systems, and the solar panels. But for our customers, it's not really a lot of a problem. They really don't know what is imported into Nigeria and what is not imported into Nigeria. What they just want is seamless cold storage that is unbroken, and so that once they start cooling, they will continue cooling all the way. We've come across a lot of Nigerians who are actually questioning why we should import 40% and why we cannot be able to manufacture that 40%. But we've always told them that it's a gradual process. We are relying on foreign partners, but we are actually looking at how do we locally manufacture and achieve 100% ColdHubs with local available materials. But I think we're on that track. Yeah.
Thank you. And on the Victron side, Anco or Yoann, how are you dealing with this topic of local manufacturing? Are you able to include some level of local manufacturing in your products, or is this completely international on your side?
Thank you, John, for asking this question. Indeed, having been living in West Africa for the last 15 years, I've been totally trying to help the companies to do more work themselves. So instead of buying containerized energy solutions from Europe or other countries, we really teach the local technicians how to build good systems with local building materials. So indeed, you need batteries and inverters that are produced mainly in Asia, but just those devices don't make an energy solution for a farmer or for a business. It comes down to engineering, to the buildings, to laying out, to keeping it going for several years. So there's maintenance. So a lot can be done locally.
Yeah, that's the other side of things. Indeed, there's the equipment, but also very important, the installation, operation, and maintenance over the long run, which is also a growing topic in the industry. We could continue like this for several hours, I think, based on all the questions that we have received. But unfortunately, we have to bring an end to this very interesting webinar. We're already like 20 minutes longer than originally scheduled. I would like to thank all our speakers today. Thank you so much for so openly and candidly sharing about your work and the great projects you have been developing. And also I would like to thank all the listeners for joining us today, for sharing so many questions. And as I said, we will share the recording of this webinar. We will put you in touch if you have specific questions for one of the speakers. And of course, for anything else, please get in touch. info@avsiasolar.com. Very simple. We'll be very, very happy to assist you with anything we can. I wish you a very, very good afternoon. Thank you once again for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you at one of our next activities. Thank you.